Today, baristas in our stores earn on average $17.50.
That should probably be $20 plus, like many Main Street businesses pay.
Indiana Republican Senator Mike Braun stunned everybody with a comment he made about wages during a Senate committee hearing about Starbucks' unprecedented union-busting activity. So I'm going to get to this clip. It was incredible. I covered this entire stream live, by the way, so I will link to that below the video. You can go check it out afterwards. Here it is. Just go to youtube.com/TheRationalNational. 3 hours long, but it's worth it. It was good. But let me get to this moment here, because this really, there are countless moments from this stream that I could have done a video on, but this is just so weird to see a Republican senator make a point like this. So I'll get to it, but I have to properly set it up. So over the past 18 months, Starbucks has gone on a massive illegal union busting campaign. Nearly 100 Starbucks locations have voted to unionize. Starbucks has not recognized any of them, have not negotiated a first contract with any of them, while also, of course, engaging in ongoing union busting activity, with the NLRB finding Starbucks guilty in 130 cases, despite the fact that during this entire hearing, Howard Schultz was claiming Starbucks did not violate any laws. Yet judges have said, yes, you have. So I don't even know why. Anyways, that's a whole other discussion, but that was just one of the more absurd parts of that committee hearing. But to defend his actions, Starbucks CEO Howard Schultz kept bragging about this.
Today, baristas in our stores earn on average $17.50. Respectfully, that's more than the minimum wage of every senator that's represented a state on this committee, including, respectfully, Chairman Sanders, where the minimum wage in Vermont is $13.18. We're at $17.50.
All right, a couple of quick things to mention here before I get to the comments from Mike Braun. Howard Schultz here is comparing the average wage at Starbucks to the minimum wage in states. That already showcases how dishonest Howard Schultz is. Why would you be comparing the average wage to a minimum wage? And on top of that, do you not understand that senators do not decide what wages are in their state? That's the job of governors and state politicians. Vermont has a Republican governor. How is the minimum wage on Bernie's shoulders? It's so ridiculous. On top of that, partners. This entire committee hearing, he doesn't call them employees, he calls them partners. Starbucks refers to their employees as partners. It's all performance. If they were partners, then you would recognize their union. You would have a first contract with them. This would already be, there wouldn't need to be a hearing like this. So the idea that they're calling them partners when they're employees, again, it goes to this performative action that Starbucks is known for. But this is the most amazing part of this entire thing, is this response from Mike Braun. Again, a Republican senator. Here are his comments about Howard Schultz bragging about wages.
Any large corporation shouldn't necessarily be bragging about $15 to $20 wages. When you look at the typical structure of a large company, that should probably be $20 plus, like many Main Street businesses pay. And I think if companies like yours and the larger companies don't do it, you're going to be constantly, grappling with maybe here.
Absolutely amazing. This is the first time in my life that I've seen a Republican senator say that a corporation should be paying their employees more. Over $20 an hour in this case. So he really cut Howard Schultz down to size there, at least in that moment, just fully exposing that Starbucks is not, the perfect company. I mean, there are many reasons as to why, but for a Republican senator to recognize that one of Howard Schultz's bragging points is nothing to brag about. And I don't think any Democrat really mentioned that they should be paying more. It was just Mike Braun that mentioned this. Look, moments like this, I think, help to maybe turn some heads, maybe open some minds when you even have a conservative recognize that Starbucks can afford to pay their employees more. And this was also brought up by Bernie Sanders last year. So this is a comment I found from about a year ago. So this is a New York Post piece. The Seattle-based giant generates enough cash to give each of its 380,000 employees a $5,000 bonus and still keep $2.6 billion in profits from last year, Sanders tweeted on Monday. So, look, he did the math. There's no dispute of that anywhere. Why am I getting an ad now? Look at this. New York Post business report. Thank you. I don't care. But here's the tweet. So it says here, instead they're raising prices while spending $20 billion on stock buybacks and dividends when profits are up 31%. Don't blame inflation, blame corporate greed. When you can afford to give that kind of bonus and still keep 2.6 billion in profits, again, it goes to proving Schultz wrong and his whole claim that there's such a or that he is such a giving person. And again, the whole hearing, if you saw Schultz, you know, I could bring up more clips, but just go watch the stream. There's too much. Following what Bernie said there, though, Starbucks then felt more pressure and they committed to $1 billion in fiscal year 2022 investments to uplift Starbucks partners, employees, and the store experience. So on that point, that's when they decided to raise wages and double training for workers as Schultz tries to heat off union push. So the pressure around all their anti-union activity, all the coverage of that got them to raise wages and improve conditions for at least some people. Again, not for people who are trying to form a union. Those individuals did not get those benefits, which also goes to another violation of labor rights. But there is so much from this stream that I could have covered. I'll get to that in a second. From the stream that I could have covered, it just, again, I will link to this below the video in case you want to, skip through it and check out some moments. But so I've shown this so many times. As union membership declines, income inequality increases, showing that unions benefit everybody, all workers in society, not just those that are in a union, because they raise the standard for what is acceptable in the workplace. Out of all people, Hickenlooper brought this up. It stunned me. I always, based on his run for president in 2020, I always saw Hickenlooper as a much more conservative Democrat. But for him to raise this point was really good to see. And really, all the Democrats on this panel had fairly good moments in their questions on Howard Schultz. So really good to see more of a voice for labor rights here than what you at least generally see. And again, you could say, well, talk is cheap. They're just doing it in this moment. And that's a fair criticism. That said, it was much better than the tongue bath that the right gave him during this entire hearing, minus Braun and that one moment. So again, I will link to this below the video. Look, I could do like 10 videos on this hearing. There is so much from this, including reactions from former employees. So they came in afterward that actually I had to leave before this happened. But there were former employees who tried to unionize and they were either fired or restricted from being able to form their union in some way. So there's a lot of discussion around that as well. Just there is so much on this topic that I wish I could cover. But check out that stream. You will find a lot of goodness within it and maybe a realization that Starbucks isn't as great of a company as maybe they once were.